Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Star Wars. In terms of sheer numbers and years enjoyed, it has got to be my single favorite series of all time. And today, we are going to be taking a look at one of the greatest games of all time and one of the best Star Wars games of all time, Star Wars Republic Commando. Star Wars Republic Commando was developed by LucasArts and published by LucasArts and was directed by Tim Longo. It used the Unreal 2 engine to great effect and was released in North America on the Xbox on February 28, 2005. And that, of course, was the day I started playing it because I pre-ordered the game. I still remember the day I picked it up quite well. As a teenager at the time, I had to suffer through an entire day at school to finally play the Great Republic Commando. That day could not end fast enough for me. When it finally did, I practically flew to a game shop called Game Crazy to pick it up. Said Game Crazy is, alas, now a Panera Bread. Upon taking it home, I tossed it into the Xbox and played the entire first level, and it was everything I hoped for. But upon finishing the first level, the Xbox sends up the dreaded error message, "This disc is dirty or damaged." Much rage ensued. Thankfully, with imprecations and prayers to the mighty Xbox, I was able to finish the game, and what a game it was. At the time, I thought Republic Commando would revolutionize the first-person gaming world. Alas, that was not the case. Star Wars Republic Commando is a squad-based first-person shooter that follows the adventures of the badass team known as Delta Squad. 07, aka Sev, the Hunter, all-around stone-cold badass. Delta 4-0, the implacable man, the rock of the squad, and the quoter of regulations. Delta 6-2, the heart and soul of Delta Squad, the joker and the exploder of ordnance. And last but not least, you, Delta 1138, the boss. And by your will, the war is prosecuted, and by your will, the foes fall. And underneath it all is a wicked sense of humor. Sev, Scorch, Fixer, and Boss are what give this game the push needed to go from a mere masterpiece to legendary. The characters are so well written and the game so well directed that you start to feel like a member of Delta Squad. The entire game uses the Half-Life style of never leaving the perspective of Boss, and this is really quite effective in immersing the player into the game. Although I feel it works better here than in Half-Life, as Boss is a really entertaining character and you actually care about the world you interact with. In Half-Life 1 and 2, you may never leave the eyes of Gordon Freeman, but you never really feel that connected to the world around you, and thus you feel more like a ghost floating around and interacting with various disconnected events. Here, you fully feel like you know what is going on, and you are fully invested in what the game has to offer, and you actually care about what is going on. Ostensibly, this is a first-person shooter, but unlike with others, you only have access to one primary weapon. While I might be knowledgeable about many things, my skill set sadly does not extend to the DC-17M. Which is why I'm going to turn it over to Hanbard Tucci so he can explain the DC-17 multi-weapons system.
I'm Hanbard Tucci and welcome to Imperial Arms Solutions. Today we're covering the Blastech DC-17 line. Both the DC-17M, ICWS, and the sidearm the DC-17. Blastech has been around for centuries and their small arms have been well proven. But in the year 22 BBY, the need for smaller and lighter specialist weapons for clone commandos active in the Galactic War on Terror was making itself very apparent. The DC-15 had served very well as a general-purpose infantry rifle, and the adoption of the DC-15S carbine served strike teams very well as a mid-range, lightweight, rapid-fire support option, allowing suppressive fire capability that DC-15A could not realistically provide. Their solution to this quandary was the DC-17 line of firearms, the basis of this being the semi-auto DC-17, very solid lightweight sidearm which packs a heck of a punch versus both the Trandoshans and their droids, and when one is caught in a pinch, built solidly enough to be used as a viable melee weapon against said Trandoshans. The DC-17 sidearm is fed from a 50-shot Tabana gas energizing magazine, It can also be issued with the optional suppressor, which makes it excellent for missions which one needs to reduce their signature. At just under 3 pounds and a relatively overall small bulk, the DC-17 is one of the most optimal weapons for officers, jetpack-equipped clone troopers, stormtroopers, and vehicle crew who would find it impractical otherwise to be issued with a DC-15S or an E11 carbine. In comparison to the DC-15A, the weapon system's base carbine is a full 4.5 pounds lighter, to make a weapon system of almost comparable power in a much smaller 5-pound package. This, coupled with the carbine's advanced ionizing chamber, allow it to be a true rapid-fire solution with enhanced performance over the DC-15S. Its first unaltered configuration is an ion pulse carbine, featuring the ability to be used as a role akin to a DC-15S carbine, firing from a 60-shot energizing magazine to power the system and ionize the Tavana gas from its canister within the carbine. Our second of the combat-specific role configurations is an accurized firing module, replete with barrel and optic, allowing the DC-17M to be used as a DMR or semi-automatic sniper system. This rifle greatly increases the Commando's effective range at the cost of rate of fire, but the trade-off is worth it, for it improves stopping power per shot when faced with long sight lines, or useful when setting up ambush. The third configuration for the ICWS is an anti-material impact detonated thermal detonator module. With this module swapped in place with standard firing assembly, it allows a Commando to swiftly and decisively eliminate armored threats, and features a large enough blast radius to be reasonably employed against tighter infantry formations. The DC-17M and its parent sidearm, the DC-17, are the absolute best solution for highly trained commandos. But now for the downsides. The DC-17M is a bit too complex for basic line infantry or for rank-and-file clones and stormtroopers, and the cost is over 4 times that of the proven and reliable DC-15S or E11 blasters, which serves the Imperial Stormtrooper in the field very well. The DC-17M's base price is 4,500 credits. Compare this to an E11, which only costs 1,000 credits per carbine and requires very little training to become proficient with. The cost of the DC-17M hits rather close to home. That and the training required has held this back from mass adoption and relegated it to specialist squads. The DC-17M does allow for a lot more versatility, even though the wielder must take time to train themselves to the platform. The DC-17 sidearm is not exactly cheap either. At 850 credits, it's rather expensive. But what you get is one of the finest available sidearms in the galaxy. One of the best built, best planned, most tested sidearms available anywhere. Both the DC-17M and the DC-17 sidearm are specialist weapon systems, but they are exceptionally versatile ones. The best the Empire can provide.
In addition to the excellent DC-17M, you also have the Knuckle Plate Vibroblade. This epic melee weapon allows you to slice and dice all your various foes. And believe me, this is going to be a constant companion because many enemies like to get up close and personal, and it's something that is useful all throughout the game. The weapon system is only one part of the walking WMD that is Delta Squad. While you can run and gun and Rambo it up, you would be far better served by being an actual leader and ordering your squad around. And by the Force, can you control your squad quickly and easily? There are some preset hardpoints where you can have your squad set up and either snipe or chuck grenades. Also, in places, you can order them to get on a turret. The better you control your squad, the easier the game will be. You can also issue commands on the go, and due to the difficulty of the game, I would generally recommend to just have them always form up. That way you can bring a greater force of firepower on your various enemies. After playing this game back in the day, I thought that the first-person shooters had evolved yet again. Instead of running and gunning by oneself, you finally had a squad by your side helping out. In 2005, I had never played a Rainbow Six game, and to be honest, had I tried that back in 2005, I would have likely disliked the genre, and in 2018, I am still not a fan, as they are more like simulators than games. Republic Commando got the level of fun and complexity just right. You have just enough control to tell your squad what to do, but it's not so complex that you have to read a 100-page manual to walk bloody forward. Sadly, modern games do not even have this level of complexity, and you have never been able to control a squad this effectively since. In addition to slotting clankers and wets, you also have to blow up things and slice panels and all sorts of fun stuff like that. And outside of level 1 and a few spots, you have a choice of either ordering your squad to do it or doing it yourself. You will generally want to order your squad to do the various tasks. That way you can keep a close eye on the surrounding battle space. It's hard to see a B2 battle droid coming up or a bloody bug dropping down if you have your face stuck in a goddamn console. Health is handled as you would want it and is not at all regenerative. And in a bit of a departure from Star Wars lore, you have energy shields. In the novels, the Katarn armor that the Commandos wear is just really tough physical armor that can even shrug off a grenade placed right on the main chest plate. And in pre-Dark Forces lore, energy shields were seen as impractical due to heat transfer issues. In the game, the armor is sadly not quite that tough. Or is it? Once the shields go, your health drains fairly quickly, and your shields are only effective against energy weapons and not melee weapons. And so, those goddamn bugs can cut you down in just a few goddamn swipes. But you never actually die, you only get incapacitated. Meaning, I guess, that the armor tanks all the hits and only the squishy and wet insides take the beating. And thus, when you are revived, all the internal injuries are healed. If your entire squad gets incapacitated, you have to reload the save. And yes, this will happen on occasion, as this game is harder than the Glacius plate on Katarn armor. There are no health packs in the game, rather there are Bacta stations that are a bit incongruous and very video gamey. But, and this is a nice curvaceous bum, the game actually lampshades this and turns it into a bit of a joke.
Whoever left his Bacta dispenser here should get a medal.
Oh, Scorch, how we miss thee. There are some other weapons you can pick up, but alas, they're utter fear feck, and most are only good against certain types of enemies. There is the double-barrel Trandoshan energy shotgun. It does decent damage in a pinch, but is ultimately worthless. Then there is the SMG that is worthless. Then you got the Geonosian beam weapon that actually does some damage, but takes a considerable amount of time to actually fire. Then you got the bowcaster that must use the 9mm Flowbird cartridge, cause damn does it not do any damage. Then you can get a chain gun off of a dead big Trandoshan bastard, a Maul Ninja on, shall we say, weight gain powder. He can shred you in seconds, but when you use this weapon, it's bloody worthless and takes a bunch of hits to take anything down. The last Trandoshan weapon you can pick up is the compression rifle. Now, this weapon has been seen in other Star Wars games, and in other Star Wars games, it is more or less the equivalent to the BFG 9000. Sadly, this is more of the equivalent to the BFG .5, because it does very little damage, and is, as we always expect with Trandoshan weapons, ultimately worthless. Lastly, you have the one good non-Republic weapon, the Wookiee Rocket Launcher. It does good damage against the bloody big busted B2 battle droids. Sadly, it only shows up late game and is little better than your explosive charge launcher. It's good that there are other weapons in the game, but would it have hurt LucasArts to make them worth a damn? Sadly, there are no vehicular levels, but the absence is not felt when playing the game. Although I would have loved a level where you had to hop an orty and deliver death from above. Music for the game is nothing short of legendary. You of course have the traditional Star Wars core, but as this is a legendary game, you actually get a new Star Wars song that is every bit as iconic as the game itself. And that spine-tingling track is Vode An. I cannot play it. I cannot play it. Because if I did, it would be a copyright strike. But yeah, if you have not heard it, look it up and give it a listen. Your life won't be the same after. Voice acting is nothing short of legendary as well. Delta Squad are voiced at movie level, and at times they actually feel like real people. Tamara Mortensen does even better here than when he played Jango Fett, and fully embraces his role as boss and brings in some really humorous lines. Individuals who have not read the novels might be somewhat confused as to why the clones actually have individual voices. The short answer is that clones picked up the voices from their trainers, and we will get into that a bit later during the story segment. But the longer answer is, humans differentiate no matter the environment, so it makes perfect sense that many of the clones would have different voices. They may be clones, but they are individuals all the same. Each member of Delta Squad has a unique and memorable voice actor. Scorch is voiced by Raphael Sbarge, who longtime Star Wars fans should recognize as the voice of the ever-awesome Cartho Nassi, and of course he would later go on to voice the character of Kaden Alenko in the Mass Effect series. Delta 40 is voiced by the ever-competent Andrew Chaikin, and Delta 07 is voiced by Jonathan Cook, who would later go on to voice random clones in Battlefront 2, the real version! These 4 voice actors are what really sell Republic Commando, and the game would not have been nearly as good without them. Today, we are primarily going to be taking a look at the PC version of the game, but we're also going to be taking a look at the Xbox version as well. Here is the Xbox version. Sadly, this is not my original copy of the game. After my Xbox failed me for the last time, I bloody well sold it and all the games, which I would later come to regret when I had to rebuy all the various games I had on that system. The footage we are viewing here was captured off an Xbox 360, a Star Wars version no less. This very copy of the game was the very first Xbox game I would ever replay on the Xbox 360. The Xbox version of the game works well on the Xbox 360, and I never ran into any issues when playing it on there. When recording the footage for the review, it was quite a trip down the Hydean way indeed. The controls for the Xbox version are quite well mapped to the Xbox controller, and I actually liked the squad commands a bit more on the Xbox as they are mapped to the D-pad and all you have to do is hold A and tap direction to order the deltas around, unlike on the PC version where you have to use a function key. I was able to pull off a good many headshots with the console controls, and I never felt like I was just floating around like with so many other first-person shooters on consoles. The graphics are, of course, downgraded from the PC version, but still look good even in 2018. The sound and music is still good, and I still love the fact that even on consoles, you can save anywhere you bloody well please. The only real deficiency between this and the PC version is the rather low frame rate, sometimes dipping into the 10 FPS mark. The low frames per second does not diminish the gameplay altogether that much, and it never gets to unplayable levels. Back in 2005, I didn't really notice, and today, it's just amazing to see a game of this graphical complexity working as well as it does on an Xbox. In this review, we're taking a look at the GOG version. However, getting the GOG version does not confer on you the status of PC Gaming Master, as it does not really differ from the Best of PC disc version in any way. If you just install base Republic Commando, you will not be able to play it on high screen resolutions, nor will you be able to run the game with bump mapping. If you try and run it with bump mapping, the game will crash every bloody time. Now, I am running the game in 1080 with bump mapping on, because I am a PC master. How does one do this? How does one level up from a mere console Padawan or PC Knight? Well, one of the reasons why the PC gaming order is both loved and feared is the fact that we have special powers of game modification. In the ModDB Temple Archives sits an arcane file known as the Republic Commando Fix Mod. After downloading, all one need do is put it into the root folder of Republic Commando and overwrite some files, and boom, you have taken your first steps into a larger world. By installing the Republic Commando Fix mod, you have access to master levels of screen resolutions and high FOV. For most of the game, I played it in 100 FOV. But that is not all the mod does. The mod also gives Boss a rockin' bod, although he looks a little skinny and there are a few minor clipping issues. The mod also tweaks the game in other more subtle ways and ensures that the PC version is by far the single most definitive way to play Republic Commando. Graphically, Republic Commando has more than stayed the test of time. Just look at these graphics. This is only Unreal 2, and yet they look on par with something from 2018. Of course, there are a few weak textures here and there, but that is nothing that a high-res texture pack cannot fix. The animations are also a sight to behold as well. They are fluid and very complex, and it is quite satisfying to see a commando break the neck of a bloody Trando Merc. Sound on the PC version works well enough, but due to sound software being different in 2018 versus 2005, some of the sounds will be a bit more simplistic than they might have been in 2005. Most notably is the fact that there is no reverb in the cave levels. There are a few tweaks for this to be found, however. Overall, in terms of fundamentals, Republic Commando is nothing short of top tier. It's the story that pushes this game from merely top tier to legendary. As with every single LucasArts game, you have the excellent LucasArts logo. In most every big LucasArts game, you had the logo have some sort of gimmick that was rather entertaining to see. The logo here perfectly sums up the game. It is in a faded blue, tactical color, and you hear some assorted combat chatter, and then, as quickly as it appears, it fades out. Simple, effective, and to the point for a military-themed Star Wars game. And just for documentation, this recording of the logo came from the Republic Commando demo on the KOTOR 2 disc. The splash screen is also amazing as well. It starts up with all 4 commandos, and the song Vodeon blasts out. The menu is also top tier as well. When you finish the game, you can select between the different levels, and you do so in an efficient and cool manner. All this quality before the game even starts! You start up as an infant in a cloning chamber. You then progress through the enhanced training and fast growth of a clone trooper. All of this is done from the first-person perspective. You literally start looking through Boss's eyes at his very birth, and you never once leave him throughout the entire game. Take that, Gordon Freeman! Sadly, the game glosses over the Clone Commandos' training with their Mandalorian instructors. Although the loading screens do show one Waylon Vow talking about how he trained the members of Delta Squad. On the Xbox version, these little loading screen statements are easy to read. On the PC version, being played on my super future space PC, there is not nearly enough time to read those little text boxes. One of the aspects of the true EU was that everything Star Wars was interconnected. Star Trek didn't do this, and alas, Star Trek didn't even keep that good of continuity between the episodes, much less between the books, games, movies, and TV shows. In Star Wars, continuity was the order of the day back then. Waylon Vow was a guy mentioned in the loading screens of a bloody video game. In any other franchise, he would disappear as soon as he showed up. But not so in Star Wars. Waylon Vow would show up in the Republic Commando novels by Karen Travis and would be an amazing character in his own right. And he even had a space cat named Mird that could also fly. It's Star Wars, goddammit! He was a harsh taskmaster to the Deltas, but in so doing, he ensured that they were the baddest sumbitches this side of Blue Team. As mentioned before, you have Sev, Scorch, Fixer, and Boss, and they have the task of taking down the Separatists. The game never fails to impress in terms of its graphical prowess. Once you get introduced to everyone, it's time to embark for Geonosis, and this scene right here is nothing short of amazing. You really feel like you're in the Star Wars universe, and it's all from Boss's perspective. There's no massive flashy cutscenes, and this scene really is quite simple, but in its simplicity, it's amazing. You have him just standing here, waiting for his lordy to show up, but you see all the armies getting onto the ships, you see all the stuff going on, and it's just excellent. The first battle on Geonosis is quite good, and turns me on. And originally, it was supposed to be the setting for the entire game. Seeing as how we know from Episode 2 Attack of the Clones that the Seps are going to escape, I'm glad they cut it down to just the one level. This level takes you from the arena seen in Attack of the Clones to an underground area where you get attacked from all sides by goddamn locals, and finally you make it to a droid core ship where you try and steal some codes. This segment right here was the legendary demo seen on the KOTOR 2 disc. This segment right here showed you everything you needed to know about the game. You start up alone and work your way to each of your squaddies, fighting more and more droids as you go, and it all culminates in a big-ass boss fight against a dwarf spider droid. I cannot tell you how many times I played that bloody demo. It was that good. During the Generallotz level, you face primarily Clankies and a few bugs. You have your typical B1 battle droid that is easy to kill but can drain your shields when they attack in vast numbers. And they always come in vast numbers. The big Bs pack quite a wallop as they can drain your shields and kill you in just a few hits, and take a considerable amount of punishment to put down. "They're no match for droid dickers" was one of the few cool lines in episode 1, and old Newt wasn't just whistling Dixie, cause these bloody destroyer droids ain't easy to take down. If you have EMP grins, they're easier, but you can only carry 5 at any one time, and they get used up fast. You can rush and attack them with your knuckle vibroblade, but you can just as easily get shot for your trouble. These guys are, in short, mini-bosses, and the game loves to throw them at you in great numbers. The bugs are by far the most annoying. They fly about and either slice you up with melee weapons or shoot you with massive wave motion guns. These flying bastards soak up damage and dish it out in equal numbers. And you can definitely have you and your entire squad die just from one of these goddamn chitinous cretins. The final battle of the level is on a core ship's bridge. You have to hack a panel before the ship explodes, all the while being attacked by SPDs and droid dickers. Eventually, you get the data and get the hell out of Space Dodge. Between each level, there will be a time skip, and so between Geonosis and the RAS Prosecutor level, there will be a time skip of 1 year. The Prosecutor level is by far my favorite level, not only because it's a Starship level, but it's also a bit of a horror level as well. Delta Squad shows up on the derelict RAS Prosecutor with zero intelligence as to what happened to it. One by one, your squad gets taken down by something that is kept just out of sight. Eventually, you face this unidentified flying bastard known as a scav droid. I swear, the Republic Commando fix mod has to jack up the difficulty because you can be killed in about 5 seconds by the damn scav droids. After you face the scav droids, you find that the Prosecutor has been taken over by Trandosians. Trandosians are lizard people first seen in the film Empire Strikes Back. That's what Bosk is. These guys are essentially the mall ninjas of the Star Wars universe. They pack weapons and armor that is tactical, but is about as useful as Gecko 45 on a Delta team. Despite being mall ninjas, they are still dangerous, and you have to slay them with blaster and vibroblade alike. One hilarious Trando mall ninja type is the Trando Merc. The Trando SMG does little damage, and they have a big fuel tank on their backs that is very easy to hit and explode, and when exploded, launches them right into the air. This level also has an Easter egg where you can find a lightsaber, and when you do, Boss says this.
An elegant weapon for a more civilized time, huh? Well, guess what? Times have changed.
One minor issue with Republic Commando is the fact that the other clones are rather weak and pathetic, and act like undertrained conscripts and die at the drop of a helmet. Even though that makes literally no sense. It annoyed me as a teenager and annoys me here too. And it's a bit of a storytelling cop-out that the devs didn't need to do. We know that the Deltas are some bad bitches, so why in the name of the Great Space Dragon do we need to see the other clones as being little better than conscripts 2 weeks out of basic? It's just stupid. But can be ignored due to the quality of the game. The Prosecutor feels big. One of the issues with capital class vessels in some games is how small and cramped they feel. An Acclimator class assault ship is bloody huge and should feel bloody huge. And in this game, it feels as big as it should. You fight through some super fun areas such as this one, where you have to stop the Seps from dropping droid dispensers. The fights are tough, and you had better have learned proper squad command, otherwise you're gonna get dead fast. The bosses for this level are roided out Trando Mercs that are so doped to the gills that you can blast them in the face with an explosive charge, and they keep coming. They also make a really cool sound when you face them.
I think they've got 6-2 holed up in the detention block.
Then we better get there before the Scaly start in on him.
The most annoying enemy on the Prosecutor is the goddamn turret. They can drop you in just a few bursts, and the AI has no clue how to handle them, and they just stand around like bloody idiots getting shot. The final part of the level is here. You have to run a gauntlet of turrets and slice a panel before the ship is blown up. Even with quick saves, you will certainly get the urge, after dying a billion bloody times, to chuck either the controller or the keyboard out the goddamn window. With the Prosecutor saved, it's time not only for the final level, but also one of the final battles of the Clone Wars. The final level, and the final battle of the Deltas, takes place on the Wookiee homeworld of Kashyyyk. The firefights get more intense, and you face some of General Grievous's Magna Guards. All throughout the game, General Grievous gets teased here and there, and unlike today, you can actually miss these little teasing bits. There is no press F to focus. The Magna Guards get introduced to the greatness of the DC-17M, and you end up rescuing the Wookiee leader Tarful, and by the great corn, do these Wooks look bloody huge compared to the films. Yes, Chewie was the Wook equivalent to a dwarf. We have a mission that in 2018 is actually kind of sad to play, as the game gets quite good during this final segment, and I know that there will never be a follow-up to this game. Hell, it might have been my imagination, but when replaying this game for the review, some of the lines during the last parts of Kashyyyk actually sounded kind of sad, like the voice actors were depressed that the project was coming to an end. After blowing bridges and rescuing VIPs and showing General Grievous who's boss, it's time to send this game out with a bang. You and your squad split up to man Wookiee turbo lasers, and you work together one last time to take down a separatist cruiser. After it blows up, you regroup with 3 members of your squad. And then you hear Sev call for aid. Alas, you are ordered to leave him behind. The ending is very bittersweet. Yoda states that Delta Squad helped lay the groundwork for a Republic invasion to kick the Seps off of Kashyyyk. And the game ends with Boss stating that Delta Squad will be going back into action once again. The end. A legendary ending to a legendary game. Even Halo 2 couldn't pull off a cliffhanger of this magnitude. Republic Commando wasn't just a game of the early 2000s. It is the game that, like with the original trilogy, has an utterly timeless quality and even interests players today.
Back when I was about 10 years old, I experienced Republic Commando. And the main thing that made me stay and keep playing to this day was that it made you feel like you were part of the Star Wars universe, and it's still one of the best Star Wars games that's ever been made. And yeah, back to you, General.
So, what about sequels? Well, there was a planned Imperial Commando, but it was never made, and to be honest, I never want it to be made. LucasArts and all the unique attributes it brought is now long gone, and a modern game company would just make it a cutscene fest and would likely ruin the Republic Commando characters, and there would likely be Blaster DLC, and even more likely there would be Costume DLC. Now, if the year was 2006, what would I want to see from Imperial Commando? Well, first, we need to make sure that the Deltas do not kill Jedi. The Jedi are the good guys of the Star Wars universe, and it would ruin the characters of the Deltas to have them attack or kill a Jedi. I would have the Deltas start their Imperial Commando missions fighting against Sep holdouts. They would get a new guy to replace Sev and have him be a birth-born human and not a clone, and have him be a real true believer in Imperial dogma. Then, during Mission 2, have the Deltas attack a Trandoshan slaver ship, and on that ship they need to find a bunch of enslaved Jedi from the Jedi Agricultural Corps. The Jedi Agricultural Corps are a bunch of fairly weak Force users that use their Force powers to help people grow food. And after Order 66, Vader killed all of them just for sport. Still think he's a morally ambiguous character now? You then have the asshole squad mate tell the Deltas to kill the Jedi! But then literally have a bedraggled Sev straight up shank the asshole in the back. And then you have Scorch shout, "Sev, you're alive!" and have Sev respond, "Didn't think I was gonna let you have all the kills now." After the Epic reunion, have the rest of the game consist of the Deltas getting the Jedi to safety. The ending could go one of two ways. Way 1, the Deltas go into the unknown regions and live out their days. Ending 2, the Deltas meet Thrawn and fight as part of the Empire of the Hand against the various unknown region threats. In the end, that is what I would want from Republic Commando 2. But since there's never going to be a Republic Commando 2, it's up to us, the fans, to determine if Sev is alive or dead. As I started working on this video, I recalled reading about a clone trooper surviving on Kashyyyk and being a quest giver in Star Wars Galaxies. Sadly, I couldn't find the article, but I did run across this guy named Mort. He is from Star Wars Galaxies, and he states that his squad was left to die on Kashyyyk during the Clone Wars. That got the old bat computer fired up. What if this guy is Sev, but under a different name? And what if he was told that his entire squad died? And what if Delta Squad is in hiding at the time of Star Wars Galaxies, and thus he doesn't know that they made it? Could Mort be Sev? Well, one can only hope. Without a doubt, Star Wars Republic Commando is a legendary game. If you want to know what a real game looks like, look no further than Republic Commando. Republic Commando is what Star Wars is supposed to be, utterly and completely timeless. It doesn't matter if you play this game in 2018, it is still just as good today as it was back in 2005. It doesn't matter what you play it on. Sure, the PC version is the best, but the Xbox version is still just as good. I am Generallotz, wishing you good Jedi Outcast, and good LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, whatever makes you happy. I want to thank both Rainnick and Shadowstorm for helping me out on the Republic Commando video, and I want to thank all of you for watching and supporting me throughout the years. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you these game reviews.